Okay, ठीक है. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining in, Muskan, Deepak, Kimti. So today we will be starting the last unit, that is writing skills. And by the end of this class, I would like to share some material with you. So message me on the Teams app. All right. So let's start. In this particular lesson that we'll be covering today, we will be looking at the three essential elements of good writing, 5 simple steps of good writing, the writing process, and note making. And note making is a very important topic that we'll be discussing today. And so please pay attention. Let me just start it. Wait. All right. So, what are the three essential elements of good writing? The first is the structure of your writing, which ensures that the writing is logical and well presented. So, in some kind of technical, scientific, and legal writing, there are accepted structures, right? And however, for most writing, the writer can use different structures to order and sequence the message. So, whenever we're writing academically or whenever we're writing legally, we follow certain structures, right? For example, when we're writing a formal letter, we use a different kind of structure. We follow a particular format, and just a second, I think there's some issue. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So, and then when we are writing for maybe a scientific journal, or when we are writing or we're presenting a paper, we follow certain formats and our language differs accordingly, right? But when we are writing informally, perhaps when we are writing in our journal, our notebook, our diaries, we write differently, right? So a writer could order their thoughts according to the time that has happened in the past, what is happening now, and what will come next, or what is the earliest event or the latest event, right? He can start with the latest event and then talk about the past, or he can start talking about the past and go to the event that's happening right now. That's the present. And this could be used when writing about plant or animal life as well, weather, life cycles, or any cultural story. Alternatively, the order could be reversed, right? And this structure also works geographically with degrees of complexity or spatially, right? So we can write anything, we can write any which way we like to write, or we follow certain patterns, certain formats to write, right? So then we move on to the style and content. The first essential element is the structure, then it is the style and content. So sometimes when we are speaking, we end up writing the things that we are speaking, right? And so we shouldn't do that. So avoid writing as you speak. Focus on what you are writing. First, listen to what the other person has to say before writing it down. When we speak, it tends to be very convoluted and complex with qualifications and various phrases. We use a lot of usually grammatically incorrect to conform to the way the mind listens. So we can be grammatically incorrect. We end up using the wrong words. We end up using the wrong phrases, right? And also there's this tone, emphasis, body language, and facial expressions which aid understanding, all of which are all lost in writing. The mind reads differently, it needs simple, straightforward sentences. So if someone is talking to us, or if you're listening to a teacher, sometimes the teacher emphasizes certain things, right? And so when we are writing it down, we either underline it or we write important, right? So we need to hear first and then write things down. We cannot do two things at the same time, because that leads to grammatically incorrect sentences that can change the tone of what has been change the tone of the message that is being delivered. Then we cannot really bring the emotions and the facial expressions in our writing. So we need while we are writing, we need to mark out certain things if something needs to be stressed upon or something is emphasized, or we can write in brackets, that she was perhaps teary while she was saying this out loud. So the style and content of writing is equally important to us. Then strive for brevity. Brevity, right? Every word is money, money to write, to print, to read, and translate. It also makes understanding better, but balance brevity with completeness. Do not reduce so much that meaning is lost. Brevity is to, the words that you're using, they should make sense. Don't write 2 or 3 or 10 pages. Short and complete sentences that make sense should be written. कम से कम में जितना ज़्यादा बोल सकते हैं, that is what is to be focused on, right? And that is what is a strive for brevity. In 5-6 sentences, if you can explain what you have to say, do that, but don't write a whole paragraph and then find the other person getting confused, or he or she may have perhaps misinterpreted what you're saying. Just write what you want to write, right? Do not write extra, do not write something that makes no sense, do not write something that's not even connected to what has been asked of you. All right. Then simple short sentences. If you find you are using a second or a third comma, think it should become 2 sentences instead of one long one. Keep it simple. So oftentimes we just go on writing a sentence, right? We do not put a full stop. We just keep on putting commas and semicolons. We just go on doing that. So try that, can somehow change the tone. It can lead to more grammatical errors, right? So try and break sentences to keep it simple yet effective. Okay, then we have always check spelling mistakes, grammar and punctuation. Whenever you're writing, check what you're writing. Look for errors, look for punctuations that you may have left out, look for the grammar, if it's correct or not, look for the mistakes, the spellings that you are unclear about, or you don't know. Check if you have made any more mistakes like this. Then don't rely on spell check. Sometimes when we are using spell check on our desktops and mobile phones, they can give you a different word altogether, right? They can suggest you a different word altogether. So be very sure about what word you want to use in your writing, right? And not the word that has been suggested to you. Avoid repetition. That whatever that you have spoken already in the first few lines, do not repeat it in the next paragraph, right? Try to bring in new points. Try to think before you write. Then do not be satisfied with the first draft. Of course, whenever you are given an assignment, whenever you have to write something important or submit an assignment, always try to make a draft first. Always try to make an outline of what you're going to write, how you're going to present your thoughts, what examples you'll be using, etc. And then use that draft to write, and then draft it again, look for errors, and then draft it again before you do the final submission. And then read it out loud. Very important. Read it out loud so that you know what is being what is being spoken, or what are you writing, does it make sense or not. And if you can't read, this is a very important line, that whenever you're reading something that you have written, and whenever you have lost your breath somehow reading the sentence, then you should have broken the sentence through 3 parts, right? So keep these things in mind before writing. These are the essential elements of writing. Then 5 simple steps of good writing. What are those 5 simple steps of good writing? The first is clarity. Clear होना चाहिए. क्या लिख रहे हैं आप? What is important? What needs to be omitted, or what needs to be put out of the assignment that you might have been given to, that you must have been given to, sorry, that you would have been given by a teacher, right? So so clarity, know what you want to say and say it clearly and well, right? Whatever that you're writing, it should make sense. Whatever that you're writing, it should be something that is important, something that is asked out of you. All right. Then we have brevity. Be concise, less is more, right? जो भी आपको लिखना है कम से कम वर्ड्स में लिखिए, कम से कम शब्द यूज करिए कि समझा जा सके, and you do not sway or waver from the path that you are on, right? Then simplicity. Avoid jargon, buzzwords, and long sentences and overly technical and scientific language. So whenever you're using, try to use words that make sense and the other person can understand it. If you're using jargons that are specific to certain kind of registers, like for example, if you're talking about a sports review, if you're writing a sports review, sorry, and if you're using a lot of words like, जो भी cricket में use होता है कि what's that called, with the field power play and all of that, right? So sometimes it happens that whenever you're reading a review, the other person may not understand what a power play is, but you have used it quite many times, and there are other such words that the other person may not understand. So avoid using that, right? Avoid using these words that come up every time, like we have FOMO, we have many such words that are lit, right? So they keep on changing, language keeps on evolving, so you don't know if the other person is not as aware as you are, and he is not aware of this particular terminology. So avoid using words that the other person may not understand, right? So try to use words that are easy and that can be understood by a lot of people, right? Then simplicity, avoid jargon, right? Then we have humanity. Make sure it relates to your audience. Very, very important that whatever that you're writing, your content should be understood by the person who's going to read it. It should make sense to the person that you are writing for. Okay. And then authenticity. Believe in what you're writing, right? Know what you're writing. Is it making sense? Is it as true as you want it to be, right? And if you're fictionalizing something, make sure that it is relatable. It's not something out of the world that makes no sense to no one, right? So be very sure of what you're writing, even if you're creating something new from your imagination. If you're writing fiction, if you're writing something that's absolutely different, try to make it try that soul that we say na, ki soul hona chahiye, that should relate to the people, right? You cannot just write anything and everything that makes no sense whatsoever, right? So be true to what you're writing. Your writing should reflect your thoughts, your expressions, your ideas in the most natural and the truest sense possible. Then the writing process. What is the writing process? We looked at the reading process. We had a pre-reading, reading and post-reading exercises, right? We think what are we going to expect from the material, then we read it, and then we have this post-reading activities, which is thinking, ruminating on things that we have just read, trying to form questions on it, right? If we had previous questions, were those questions answered or not after reading, right? So we had that, and now we have the writing process, which is very similar. We have a pre-writing process, writing process, and then a rewriting process. So what is the writing process? Writing is a competence which can be inculcated with practice. The more you practice, the better you're going to be. When one writes poetry, as one has a natural inclination to write poetry, but when one writes an assignment or a term paper, one does it because of an academic necessity, right? So you can write poems, you can write anything, you can write in stories on Instagram, right? But that is reflective of you, your thoughts, your expressions. But if you are to be given an assignment, for example, right, a term paper, then you will be thinking about what you're going to write. How is it going to reflect your thoughts or your opinion or the question that a teacher has asked you, right? So while writing an assignment or an academic paper, not only you should know about the subject on which you are asked to write, or how have you chosen to write, but should also have some basic idea about the format of how to write this assignment or academic paper. In academic writing, it is necessary that we approach it as a craft and learn it. Academic writing is a response to a necessity, therefore writing should be approached as a process. So whenever you're given an assignment or a term paper, or whenever you're even writing an answer in an exam, you need to follow a certain kind of a format. You cannot write anything and everything. There are times when you make bullet points. There are times when you divide your answer into different sections to talk about different things that you know, right? So for example, a question is asked on pollution. You will be writing one paragraph is on soil pollution, one paragraph is on noise, one paragraph is on air, right? Then, or you can use a content, you can write contents. Then you can use bullet for points. So you can do a lot of these things to enhance your writing skills. Please do not message me during the class individually. If you have any questions, put it in the chat box. Satyam Tiwari, stop messaging on Teams app. Kindly message on the live question and answer, the chat box that has been shared to you. Yeah. So what was I saying? Yeah. So you follow a certain format so that the receiver or the teacher, that is, can understand your ideas better, right? Can understand that you have understood the concept a little better, and you're trying to show that yes, I know what pollution is, what are the different kinds of pollutions, you'll give certain examples, etc. Right? So as writing is a process, therefore it usually follows a particular sequence, which is pre-writing, writing, and rewriting. Yeah. So what is the pre-writing stage? Pre-writing is a process. Pre-writing is a process which comes before the actual writing begins. While writing any assignment or term paper, it is presumed that there must be something very significant that needs to be written. Therefore, one must ponder over certain significant aspects before one begins writing. And what are those significant aspects? They are, one should figure out the aims and goals of writing. In other words, one must make sure that one knows why one is writing, right? So what is the question that has been asked of you, right? So you should know what has been asked of you, right? Write a formal letter. And then you will ask yourself, do I know how to write a formal letter? Do I know the format or not? If you're writing an assignment, your approach will be different from that of an answer you're preparing for the exam. Then one should gather all the available information and data on the subject one decides to write on. That is, one needs to do the required research on the topic and figure out the available literature on that topic. Then one should then determine the style, that is the way one arranges one's words and sentences into a cohesive piece of writing. The same data can be used by different individuals to produce different arguments, even though they may intend to write for the same audience. Therefore, before getting into writing, one should also decide on and choose one's style of writing. Okay, so this is what the pre-writing stage is, that you should be very sure of what is being asked of you, of what you are going to write, right? Then you have to prepare everything that is there in front of you. You have to gather all the necessary information, right? If you have to make a report, then you should have all the numbers in place, right? You should have all the numbers and all the necessary information in place, and maybe examples as well. All right, then you should determine the style of writing. How are you going to write it? Are you going to use bullet points? Are you going to divide the essay into different paragraphs talking about different things? So how are you going to write that? So that's the pre-writing stage, where you're trying to draft, where you're trying to prepare an outline with examples and with the data that you're going to use in your writing. Then we have, moreover, while writing an assignment or a project, there is a deadline that is given to us, and we need to plan our writing in such a way so as to meet the deadline. It is assumed that during our college or university days, there's not a single assignment or project to be done, but many. Therefore, one needs to plan all assignments together and make sure that the deadlines for each of them are met. Therefore, it is significant that we chalk out a plan, right? So whenever we are preparing an outline, we have to make sure that the outline that is being prepared is is something that's not too ambitious, because sometimes we become a bit more ambitious. We'll be like, we'll be writing almost like a 50-page word term paper. We cannot do that. No, if your deadline says next week, the max that you can write is 5-6 pages, right? So you have to be very careful about what has been asked of you, what has been required, what's the requirements, right? Is there a deadline or not? Then very often in writing assignments and projects for academic purposes, a word limit is also set by the instructors, teachers, evaluators. One should limit oneself within the word limit, and therefore, while arranging the facts and arguments, give more importance to the facts and arguments which are primary to support your topic. Thus, one needs to plan a chalk out a rough plan, a structure of how one will progress with the process of writing. Right. So, for example, if you have been told to write 300 or 400 words, then you will be writing accordingly. If you have been given 3,000 or 5,000 words, then you will be writing accordingly. You'll be gathering a lot more information, right? If it's a 3,000 or 4,000 word essay, you will be gathering more information. You'll be gathering more data. You'll be doing more surveys. You'll be doing more interviews. You will try to get more material that supports your ideas, that answers the question that has been asked of you, right? So you will gather more information. Right. So then we have, of course, the writing stage. The writing stage is when everything comes together, right? When all the information, when all the relevant information, all the data, or the surveys, or the interviews that you have done, and all the information that has been gathered and put together in the outline needs to be written out, right? So what is the writing stage? Once the relevant information and data has been gathered and a rough structure of the argument is decided, it is the time to launch oneself into the actual process of writing. In this phase of writing, one should organize the writing in such a manner that it is easily comprehensible. Therefore, it is very important to ascertain a logical sequence in writing. And then finally, we have the rewriting stage. And the rewriting is the final step of the writing process, and one that is essential to successful writing. This step requires that one revises the rough draft and edits it. Revision allows you to perfect your assignment, project, or any other writing. Just a second. Just a second. Yeah, so what I was saying was that after your pre-writing stage, you move on to the writing stage where you try to uh, where you try to bring together all of the information and whatever outline that you have made for yourself, you try to bring all of it together. Then you rewrite. Rewriting is very important for your writing skills. Because when you're writing, you may have committed a lot of mistakes. You may have made spelling errors, you may have made grammatical errors. So try to bring together everything again by rereading what you have written. And then when you're rereading, then you will be rewriting as well. You'll be focusing on the mistakes that you have done. You'll be correcting them. You'll be perhaps rephrasing a lot of sentences. All right. So, so try to follow these particular, try to follow the pattern of writing, sorry, pre-writing, writing, and rewriting. All right. Uh, Then we move on to the note making. Note making is very important because you can get questions on this particular topic, note making, where, for example, you will be given a paragraph. You'll be given a paragraph and you will be asked to write or make notes. Okay, and I'm sure you must have done this in school as well. So I'm sure you don't have to worry about it, but let's do it again. Okay, so what is note making? Note making is an exercise that we need to do as it is a key to success in academic as well as professional fields. Suppose you are given a topic to research and write on. As you do your research, a plethora of information comes to you. Some of them are useful, some very significant, some rubbish, and some which you can neglect. While gathering all of these information, we do not keep proper notes and think that you will be able to retain everything in your mind. Then you are mistaken, as it may happen that you may miss some important information while writing or may miss an important argument. Therefore, it's always better that we make notes which can then be used while we start writing or preparing for the examination or use for future reference. Therefore, note making is an essential part of many English language syllabus as it helps us writing, in our writing process. Like I've said, it was part of the syllabus in school as well, right? So why do we need note making? We need note making because a lot of times we read a lot of articles, we read a lot of information, and for example, if you have been given an assignment and you have read almost 10 articles, you have to read almost 10 articles and perhaps 2 novels. So how are you going to keep track of all of the important themes? Note making comes to your rescue there, right? So you will divide, you will have certain sections, you will make notes according to different themes, you'll make you'll make notes on the characters, you'll make notes on the plot, then you'll have sub categories of the main themes and so on, right? So wait just a second, let me share the paper. Okay. Yeah. Yes, sorry. Um, yeah. So why do we need note making? We need note making because it's a significant academic exercise for the following reasons. Today, when there is a plethora of information available on any topic, because of the spread of digital information, therefore, it is significant that one takes down notes of whatever one reads so that it can be used in future. Otherwise, the person may have the tendency to forget many things that he or she reads. And this is very important to us, um, especially at a time when our attention span is decreasing, right? Our attention span has decreased considerably. So what we need to do is we need, whenever we are reading for our exams, or whenever we're reading for an assignment or a term paper, try to make notes as much as possible so that you do not forget or leave out the important information, right? Then notes can be used for future references as well, like if you want to continue, like for example you're doing BCom right now, and then you wish then you go on continue doing your masters in the same field or discipline. So what can be done is you can go back to your notes that you may have made in your graduation that can also help you during your master's degree, right? And then by note making, one can filter the key ideas from what one has read and can do with information and analysis that are not so useful. So, like for example, if you're reading a lot of information, and because we are in the internet age and we have a lot of information at our fingertips, right? So we end up reading a lot more. We end up reading things that we don't even need or require, and that is not something that may not even is related to the question that has been asked, or that has been given to us as an assignment, or that's not even part of our syllabus, right? So but we still end up doing that. So what happens is that you have a lot of information, but you need to write it down that that this article did not help you that much, right? This article talks about maybe the plot, then the other article talks about the character, right? So you can make your own notes, you can put it according to your preferences. How are you going to read this particular article? This article is in economics, this article is in commerce, this article is related to so and so topic, right? So you can make your notes which can help you later. Then it can help in revision work, right? For example, we just looked at the pre-writing stage, the writing stage, and the rewriting stage. So a lot of times it happens that when we have written down an article, whenever we have written down a term paper or an assignment, we may have forgotten something. May have forgotten to add an important point that we thought was necessary, right? So what one can do is they can go back to the notes, they can refer to, or they can relate to whatever the topic is, and think again if there is another opinion that they think is important to be included or not. Or whenever they're in the rewriting stage, they may have missed out a point, and they found that in their notes, right? So that can help you. It can help you revise your draft, it can help you rewrite your assignment and make it a lot better. Okay. Then we have the techniques of note making, important to us. So the first significant thing about note making is that the reader should read or go through the reading of the passage very carefully and try to figure out the key ideas, main theme, key arguments of the reading, the passage, or the material that you're reading, right? So very important that you should know very well whatever that you're reading, and you should read carefully. You cannot let your mind wander here and there, right? You should read very carefully what you're reading. Try to understand the gist of it, try to understand the themes, the plot, the story, or whatever is being discussed, the idea or the concept as well. Then the note maker should then put the main idea of the passage as heading of the passage. The heading should be short and easy to understand, right? So over here you have the heading of the topic. So you'll be looking at microeconomics and macroeconomics, and the first heading is macroeconomics, right? Then what should one do? That at the middle of the page, sorry, moreover it should be so that it evokes the interest of the other readers and make you go through it again, right? Then under the heading of the passage, the subheadings should come in. Under the heading of the passage, the subheading should come in. So you're going to talk about, or you're going to read the material on macro and microeconomics. So you will start by discussing microeconomics, what microeconomics is. So there's one point and there's another, and this another point has further two sub points. Okay. Then you're under the heading, sorry, under the passage, the subheadings should come in. Just a second, hold on. Yes, sorry. So under the heading of the passage, the subheadings should come in. Subheadings are the subordinate or associated ideas that come under the heading, that are used to develop the heading or the main idea of the reading or passage. Okay, so we have the main heading, what is the article about, what is the material about. Then we are dividing that material into different points. We have 2 points right here, and within the first point we have 2 more points, and the second point, sorry, it should be 1, 2 and 3, and within this point we have further subheadings. All right, then we have under the heading the passage, the subheadings should come in, and subheadings are the subordinate or the associated ideas that come under the heading, that are used to develop the heading or the main idea of the reading of passage. Once we are through with the subheading, it is essential to write the points under each subheading, which goes on in support or against, to uphold, to argue, in favor or against, to provide the details, etc. of the subheading. It should be kept in mind to properly indent space suitably and provide them number of, put them in bullet points. Now what is indent? Indent ये होता है ये जो difference ये जो space छोड़ा है, right? और यहाँ पे भी space छोड़ा है, that is indentation. Right, 1 in subheading, उसी के नीचे we'll start writing other points, and we are using the bullet form, right? 1 2 3 होना चाहिए ये, I'm sorry, 1 1 1 है, 1 2 3 points with different subheadings, and then उसमें हम 1 2 और 3 कर रहे हैं, right? So indentation है ये, हम इधर थोड़ा एक point था, then we moved further ahead, then we are back because we are writing the third point, then again the second point, then we leave a little space here, then we leave a lot more space here. All right, and then there is no need to write full sentences. In note making, one can just write in the form of just the necessary words which can be understandable. Abbreviations should be used as much as possible, and a list of abbreviations should be provided at the end of note making, right? So we are not to write full sentences. We are not going to write full sentences, rather we are only going to write what is important to us, right? For example, if we are going to make notes here, for example, we have writing skills. Let's do this. Right, so we are going to make notes on writing skills, and the first topic that is going to be the 3 essential elements of good writing. right? And this is our first point, right? This is our first point, the three essential elements of good writing. Then what are the three essential elements of good writing? We go back, the structure of your writing, style and content, right? Within this we write one, or because we have already used one over here, we're going to change this into structure of writing, and then we have the content, right? And then within content we also looked at avoid writing as you speak, brevity and short sentences, right? So in this particular we have one more. So we have already used one over here, right? So instead we can use this particular one, two, and then in this particular point we have further, we have, what's it, don't write as you speak, then brevity, short sentences, right? So here we have used this particular form. Then number two, then what did we look at? We also looked at always check your grammar. Then the second thing is we looked at is 5 simple steps of good writing. So can you see the 5 simple steps of good writing? Clarity, brevity, simplicity, clear sentences, okay. So can you see how we have divided it into different, we are writing headings, then we are writing subheadings, and then we are further making into points, right? And this is how you are supposed to make notes. Right now I don't have anything that I can use, or I can um, make a key of, because there's not a particular you can write good writing. For example, if we can just do this GW, right? What is good writing? Then GW will come right at the end, and we can write this as GW means good writing. So here you can make a key, and this is the particular way you can write, and you can also further write more about what's the structure of writing. Like we have written over here, clarity, clear sentences. So I'm not writing it in long sentences. I'm just using keywords that I think are important. So you have simplicity, authenticity, right? Have simplicity, simplicity, be true, or your writing should reflect ideas in the most truest form. You can write, you can go on writing this, or you can make further notes, and then you can divide it in, like for example, if authenticity, you can further give examples like what are the different kinds of writing that we do. You have journals, then you have dream journals, right? So this is what is to be followed, right? And I hope it's clear. I hope you have understood how to make notes. So your heading should be very important. Your heading should be in the middle, right? And the next time, like for example, you have to focus, or sorry, not focus, you have to rewrite something, or you have to find notes or note making, then where are you going to find it? You're going to you will return back to your notes, see what those steps that were taught to you, the steps, don't write as you speak, brevity, short sentences, you will remember them, and then you can continue writing your assignment or your term paper or whatever that needs to be submitted, right? So far everything is clear. Nikhil, there is no minimum or maximum number of headings. As long as the paragraph or the material or the story or anything that you're reading, any article that you're reading, it has like 5 topics, right? If it has 5 important points, so make 5 headings, right? If it has 6 important points, make 6 headings. It's entirely up to you. Huh. It's guys, it's probably because when I switch on the video, then the screen somehow gets blurred. So is it clear now? Like for example, this will be clear. It's just that you have to like we have to switch the videos on, and that can lead to the blurring of the text. Yeah. So any other questions? Yeah, so what I was asking of you is that Muskan, Kimti, Bhavya, 3, 4 people can message me on the Teams app, and I will share the textbook and I'll share the material with you, which you can then forward to your own group that you are a part of, right? And because we just have 2 more classes left, that is, one is on Saturday and the next one is on Thursday. So I think it's better that I start giving out the material right now. So by the time we come to the last class, you already have the material, right? So 3, 4 students can message me on Microsoft Teams. The ones who have just joined in, Muskan, Kimti, Bhavya. Just message me on Teams app and I will share the text with you, and you can forward it into your respective groups. Okay, so that will be a lot easier than for me, because or else I would have to join different groups, and then that just creates a lot more confusion, and then sometimes people are not part of this particular group, and sometimes there is another group, so it just gets a lot confusing. So I think I would what I'll do is I'll forward this material to your classmates, and then they can forward it to their respective groups. Pratima, I didn't get your question. Can you just write it down? Like, give me an example, make a note in your answer, and then maybe I can understand what you're trying to say. Shivam, the questions for note making will be like, for example, if you have been given a comprehension passage, which you will obviously be given. So on that particular, on that particular passage that you will be given, you will be asked to write a note. I don't know, Abhishek, how many groups you have as a class, so I'm not aware of it. Yes. I don't know, Nikhil. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how many groups you have as students. I am just aware of one, which is this. Wait, I'll show it to you. Just a second. Yes, so I have received messages from Muskan, Bhavya, and Kinti. Yes. Just a second. Um, yes, just hold on. Okay. So I've sent Muskan the material. Yes. So likewise, I'll send to Bhavya and Kimti, and then they can forward it to the groups. Okay, so I have shared with Bhavya, Muskan, and I'll share it with Keemti and Shreya as well. And then I think three, four students is enough. And then you can forward it to your classmates. All right. So anyone who is part of the class right now, please ask Bhavya, Keemti, Muskan for the material. All right. Yeah. I didn't understand note being should be on point. What does that mean? The Aryan, it will be uploaded on your dashboard after the classes end. I don't know. Like I've said, Abhishek, I am not aware of the groups that you have. All the syllabus is available on the SOL website. Please go to the SOL website and download the syllabus from there. Pratima, that depends entirely on you and the question that has been asked. Right? If the question has the title, then you can use the same title. If the question has no title or the passage is not doesn't have a title, then you can create your own title. It's entirely up to you. It depends on the question that has been asked in the exam. So, guys, have you received the files? Bhavya and Muskan? Yes. Okay, Bhavya. So, Bhavya, please forward it to your classmates. Yes, Kimti, I am sending it. Yes, Kimti, I think you may have received it by now. Yes, I think Kirti, you have received it. So please forward it. Guys, I've shared the material with Kirti Jaiswal and Bhavya Saluja, and I'll share it with Shreya as well, and Muskan Bansal. Yes. So these four students have the material and they will forward it to you on your groups, on your BCom groups, whichever groups you are on, whether it's on Telegram or WhatsApp. So we have two more classes left on Saturday and Thursday. So I hope that whatever that we covered today was clear, and note making is a very important topic as part of your syllabus. So please have a look at it. Do practice how to make notes. Take any article or material that you have and make notes on it, so that you are clear with the format. Always remember, whenever you have writing questions in your examination, you will be tested on the format that you'll be using. So please focus and remember the right format. All right, and then I'll see you in the next class. Thank you. Goodbye. And please forward the material, guys. Please forward. जी मैम मैं बस end कर रही हूँ session. So please forward the material that you have received, Kimti, Muskan, and Shreya. All right. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.